It boils down to two things. It boils down to mindset and messaging. So we have to get our mindset and approach aligned with our goals of speaking in the moment. So first, we have to manage anxiety. Anxiety looms large in all communication, but especially in spontaneous speaking. And then we have to reframe how we see this. First and foremost, the goal we have. Many of us, when we're put on the spot, we want to do our job right. We want to give the best answer. We want to give great feedback. We want to be the most interesting person in small talk. And that puts a tremendous amount of pressure on ourselves and makes it actually less likely we will achieve those goals. So we have to switch from perfection to connection. Just have the goal be connecting and conveying the information you need rather than doing it right. And by the way, there is no right way to communicate. The second thing we have to reframe is the whole interaction. Many of us see these spontaneous speaking situations as threatening, as something we have to defend against. When somebody asks us a question, we feel challenged. When somebody asks for feedback, we feel put on the spot. And yet we need to reframe those as opportunities. It's an opportunity to extend, to expand, to collaborate.
Love it. Okay. How do you get out of a conversation that you don't want to be in?
Yes. So that can be very challenging. And small talk is one of these things where we often find ourselves in conversations that we don't want to be part of, and we need to get out of them. So I, on my podcast, Think Fast, Talk Smart, had the pleasure of interviewing someone named Rachel Greenwald. Rachel is fascinating. She is an academic and a professional matchmaker, and she has wonderful advice. And she taught me what I call, or what she calls, and what I use is the white flag approach. And it doesn't mean surrender. It doesn't mean you're in a situation, a conversation you don't want to be in and you surrender. Rather, in auto racing, they signal the last lap by waving the white flag. It tells all the drivers that we're about to end the race. In conversation, you can exit politely by simply waving the white flag. Simply say, in a few minutes, I want to go talk to somebody over there, but before I go, and you ask another question, or you share some information with them about something they said. So you continue the conversation just a little bit longer, and then you excuse yourself. Now, because you've previewed that you're excusing yourself, nobody's surprised. There's less awkwardness. It gives the other person or people a chance to figure out what they're going to do, so they're not just left there in a strange way. And it gets us away from the exiting of most awkward conversations that we do, which is through biology. I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I have to go to the bathroom. So instead, by waving the white flag, it's just much easier, it's much more graceful, and I use it all the time, and it works.
Okay, second part of that. How do you answer a question that you don't have an answer for?
Yes. And many of us find ourselves in these situations. So you say, I don't know. Right? So when somebody says, asks you a question and you don't know the answer, you say, I don't know. But you immediately follow it up with what you're going to do to find the answer out and give a time frame for when you will get back to them. And if you have a hunch or an inkling as to what the answer might be, you can say that. So I might say something like, I don't know that answer. I'm going to go talk to Stephanie and I'm going to get back to you within 24 hours. My hunch is the answer is this. Now, many of us feel that when we don't know an answer, that's horrific, that's awful. In fact, the expectation that you know everything is pretty strange, right? It's not reasonable. Also, many of us feel that we lose credibility in those moments we don't know answers. There's some preliminary research that says, actually, saying you don't know, saying how you're going to find out, and then actually following up bolsters your credibility as much, if not more, than when had you initially answered the question. Now, obviously, you don't use this as a ploy and purposely do this to boost your credibility, but we worry that it's going to put us at a disadvantage. And in fact, by demonstrating tenacity, by demonstrating that you have the wherewithal to figure out and find out information, that actually helps you in these circumstances. So we need to let go of that notion that we need to know everything. Now, obviously, if people are asking lots of questions and you don't know many of the answers, that's a different situation, one where there's probably a mismatch between your expertise and the demands of the circumstance. So saying I don't know is not the end of the world, and it may actually be okay and helpful.
Super helpful.